The American Civil Liberties Union looked into the notion that driving while black is a crime, and they found that in some states, it kind of is. In fact, they looked specifically at Florida, and some of the numbers that they found was pretty shocking. Now, not only did they specifically look at Florida, they also specifically looked at a certain citation, getting a ticket for not wearing your seatbelt. They found that white individuals and black individuals do not wear their seatbelts at very similar rates. However, black drivers are twice as likely to get a citation for not wearing a seatbelt.
Of course.
So let me give you the data. Police in Florida were nearly twice as likely in 2014 to stop and ticket black drivers for seatbelt violations. And that may be an underestimate since at least one county with a history of racial disparities in seatbelt citations stopped reporting its stats altogether. Okay, so please keep that caveat in mind because it's important. With that said, let's look at the hard numbers. They found 91.5% of white drivers wear their seatbelts. On the other hand, 85.8% of black drivers wear their seatbelts. So black drivers are a little less likely to wear their seatbelts, but it still doesn't justify the fact that they're twice as likely to get a citation for not wearing their seatbelt.
This is a really interesting study because we are told by racists, but oftentimes they don't think they are racist. They say, well, blacks are more likely to commit crime, right? No, blacks are more likely to get arrested, right? And so this is a great example of it because some of those guys are like, well, blacks are naturally violent. We enslaved them for hundreds of years, beat them, raped them, killed them, but they're violent, right? Okay, all right, anyway, let's get past that and say, but today they're more likely to be. But this has nothing to do with violence, it's a seatbelt. In fact, I would imagine right-wingers would argue freedom. If you want to put on your seatbelt, you put it on. If you don't want to put it on, then don't put it on, right? So you should be in favor of that. So it has nothing to do with criminality, violence. It has nothing to do with anything, right? So, and it turns out it's almost no difference between the races. But when the cops pull you over and go, oh, okay, yeah, seatbelts. If it's a white guy, they don't go, I got you. They go, yeah, okay, you're free to go. Okay, if it's a black guy, twice as likely to go, all right, I'm writing you up. And now they got to go pay that. All of a sudden, that's a tax on black people that white people don't have to pay.
Yeah.
So now if you have that white privilege, you never know it because you never got that tax.
Yes. So again, this is another example of white privilege that people, for one reason or another, don't want to accept exists. This exists, right? Again, it doesn't mean that you as a white person didn't achieve great things in your life or didn't do things on your own.
Or that you had it easy.
Or that you had it easy. There are lots of white people who had hard lives and they managed to do great things despite that.
You just don't know how hard it is for the other guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So, yeah, you have a tough time getting a job. You weren't born rich, etc. Nobody's taking that away from you, right? A lot of people are in the same situation, and then they get pulled over, and unbeknownst to you, they get ticketed and they got to pay more money. And sometimes if they don't have the money for it, they get another bill. And it mounts and then they can't pay it. And then they go, okay, let's arrest them because they can't pay a government debt that they owe.
Right. And we're seeing more and more cases of like debtor's prison where people can't pay back the government for these types of citations and then they get sent to jail as a result of that. So let me give you another stat that I thought was incredible. If black people had been stopped and ticketed for seatbelt violations in proportion to their estimated representation among Florida drivers, they would have received 20,296 fewer seatbelt citations in 2014 alone.
So, okay, think about that. You're right, Anna. I was blown away by that number. In just 1 year, in 2014, okay, they got 20,000 more tickets because they were black instead of white, okay? Now, how is that not a tax? Think about all that money. And so the state, and I don't think they do it on purpose. And this is why, like, again, it's not a matter of blame. It's a matter of how do we all work together to fix it. So I'm sure that there's some cops who don't like black folks or who assume if it's a black person, they're more likely to be dangerous or whatever it is, right? But most of the time, I imagine, they don't even know they're doing it, right? They just have this thought in the back of their head, oh, no, that guy is like me. That's like, hey, he looks like my Uncle Bob. He looks like my nephew. No, he's all right. I'll go home, right? And then this guy doesn't look like me at all. He looks like, I don't know, I'm giving him a ticket. I got to give somebody a ticket. Next thing you know, they're twice as likely to get a ticket. Next thing you know, there's over 20,000 people who have gotten this extra tax put on them. That is so unjust. And then they pay, and then they cut taxes on the rich. Go, it's okay. Let's just give out more tickets. Who are we going to give them to? Black people. And this is one particular case, seatbelt in Florida. But we've covered this over and over again. This is the story in Ferguson where the Justice Department looked at it and they're like, oh my God, look at all these civil violations that they give to black people at massively disproportionate rates, and it winds up funding the police department, who then has an incentive to keep taxing black people at disproportionate rates, even though a lot of them are in a socioeconomic condition where they can least afford it.
Yeah.
And they think, who cares? Make sure you don't tax the rich and the powerful and take it out on the most powerless. And that's part of this dynamic as well. Black people not only generally, macro level, are in a socioeconomic position not as good as white people in the country, right? So that makes them a little bit more powerless. But also because of the nature, because of their race, the establishment has rules rigged against them, and then that makes them even more powerless. So when you give them that ticket, it creates a vicious cycle. They know that they can't fight back. So it makes it even easier, and then makes it more likely that they're going to get ticketed.
I know, it's so frustrating. And the worst part about it is the denial that this is existing, that this exists, and that we need to do something about it. The denial is what leads to this system continuing year in and year out.
I guarantee you there are going to be people, a ton of people that watch this video and that will write, oh yeah, see, knew it. Young Turks hate white people. Okay, first of all, I got news for you. Anna is Caucasian. Okay.
People deny that, by the way.
Right.
They're like, Armenians aren't white, except they're part of the caucus. Which,
That
by the way, I
would
fucking
literally-
hate that word. But caucus just sounds terrible.
And we're
But
not
yes.
talking about the Iowa caucus. We're talking about the caucus.
Yeah.
So that literally makes her Caucasian. John, Bet, whatever. Of course we don't hate white people. How stupid are you? When we say, hey, listen, it sounds like the system, maybe he doesn't even know it, is discriminating against black people, and we have facts. We have evidence that shows it. Why do you hate white people? No, we're trying to make sure there's justice for everybody. But some people don't want to hear that because they kind of like the system as it is.
I guess so.